Welcome, everyone. My name is Chris Charbonneau, Director of Advocacy and Engagement for myFutureNC, an education nonprofit that is focused on championing our statewide educational attainment goal and the importance of education after high school. Tonight, we are thrilled to be hosting, in partnership with the College Advising Corps, the first ever Peer Into Your Future student virtual panel. The event will be led by current college students who will share their personal experiences and advice about education beyond high school. Ahead of tonight, we received questions from students that we have incorporated into the panel discussion. And following that, we welcome any additional questions. Just place them in the Q&A located at the bottom of your screen. And with that, let's get started. I'd like to welcome our panelists hailing from the North Carolina Community College System, our historically Black colleges and universities, or HBCUs, the North Carolina Independent and Private Colleges, and the University of North Carolina System of Public University. Let's begin with you, Melanie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melanie Padrone. I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina, and I'm currently a sophomore at Wingate University, where I'm studying nursing, but I previously attended Wake Tech Community College.
Hey everyone, my name is Saji Dua. I'm a senior at North Carolina Central University. I study mass communication and I'm from Wendell, North Carolina.
Hey everyone, I'm Caitlin. I am from Sanford, North Carolina, and I attend East Carolina University. I'm currently a senior and studying elementary education, concentrating in math.
Hi everyone, my name is Steven. I attend Duke University. I'm a senior studying statistical science and sociology, and I'm also from Sanford, North Carolina.
Thank you all for joining us. We are so excited to have you with us. For first generation students, getting into college and making it through can just seem really overwhelming. On top of that, the pandemic may have some thinking, well, why now? And is education after high school, whether that be a high quality credential or a college degree, is it that important? Can each of you spend about 3 minutes talking about your own journey and your why? Melanie, let's go ahead and start with you again.
All right, so I was born in Uruguay and I moved to the US in 2000, but I basically grew up in Raleigh. In high school, I've always really enjoyed volunteering and helping people, and I've really liked biology, so I decided on nursing, but I couldn't really afford the traditional four-year university, so I decided on community college, where I received my associates there. And then recently I was awarded this full ride scholarship through the Golden Door program, and I transferred to Wingate to study nursing.
I am a first generation college student as well. So one of my parents are from Liberia. They didn't go to college and neither did my mother. And they would always push on me and my brother on the importance of getting an education outside of high school so we can get better jobs so we don't have to work as hard as they do. And so what I did was throughout high school, I would participate in multiple things like SGA and all this stuff. And I would research different colleges to go to. And I had help from Upward Bound as well on that journey. And I'm really glad that I ended up at North Carolina Central University after multiple college applications and attending different colleges and trying to find out which one was right for me.
So I have always wanted to be a teacher ever since I was a little girl. And I always wanted to go to a four-year university, but I did come from a very low-income household, so I always worried about how am I ever going to afford this. And I actually had a lot of people put those thoughts in my head, just the negative comments like, oh, you can't afford college, like you're going to be in debt your whole life if you go. You should just do something else, find something that you can also make a living with, that you don't have to go to school. But I knew what I wanted and I was determined to make that happen. So I took all the negative comments and all the obstacles and everything, and I just used that as just kind of like the driving force to push me forward to say, I'm going to make this happen for myself. And it wasn't until I started the college application process that I realized really how hard it was, just trying to figure out everything, especially when you don't have parents at home to help you. But I'm telling you, the resources are out there. You just have to find them and put your mind to it, and you can make it happen. Whenever I was filling out the essays for college applications and scholarships and everything, I really reached out to my college advisor, which was probably my best resource to help me write my essays. And she just kept asking me like, well, why do you want to be a teacher? And I was like, well, I love kids. I've always wanted to be a teacher. And then she just kept pushing me to find my why, like, why? Why do you want to do that? But why? And really, she helped me discover my true purpose for teaching, which, yes, I will teach my students curriculum and all the core subjects and morals and respect. But on top of that, I can be a living example for my students to where I can instill with them, hey, like if you want this for yourself, go make it happen. I was told I wouldn't make it happen, but here I am today. And so that's just my story of how I got to where I am now.
Yeah, and I guess for me, in terms of like my journey and how I ended up at Duke, I think for the most part, growing up, I was born in Guatemala, and then I immigrated here with my family, and it was kind of difficult at first, just even trying to have that conversation with my parents. Because I think for the most part, like them being like Spanish speaking immigrants, like didn't really understand like the American university or college system. And for them, it was always conversations about like, oh, like, you're gonna go to college, but like, we'll figure it out later when it comes time. And so none of that information was like very concrete, or I was never told like you have to do this, you have to do that. It was just like, do the best that you can possibly do in high school, and things will just work out the way they are. But fortunately for me, I was able to attend the North Carolina Governor's School, and that was really like the eye-opening moment for me when I got to meet other students with similar backgrounds like mine, but they were from more urban areas. And like it was definitely obvious that they had more resources, like because I'm from Sanford and it's generally a more rural area. And I just like did not know that like private universities can cover full rides as well. Um, and so this idea of like, oh, okay, like, if I want to get a full ride, which is honestly the only way I could attend university because it's just so expensive. And no one told me that there was like these things that you could do as long as you applied, or, you just had to like seek out that information. And so after governor's school, I came back and I met with my college advisor. And then from there on, like very early, I knew if I really wanted to get a full ride, especially to top university, because for me, like my class rank and my GPA kind of like made it obvious to me that attending a school like Duke was possible, but that it would take a lot of work and a lot of dedication to make my, I guess, applications as strong as possible, especially the essays, which I think for me like was the most important part that I really wanted to highlight in my experiences, because you're also like, you want to explain and show that like the experiences that you have, like even if you're from like a like rural North Carolina, that like you can shine and you can really show like what you're worth at this school with like a bunch of like, I would say generally rich international kids. But for the most part, it was a great opportunity to just learn how to figure out the college application system and just keep on pushing as hard as you can. And I know with the pandemic going on right now, it makes it a bit harder and a bit more difficult to stay motivated. But in the end, it was really worth it, and doing everything that you have to do what you have to do in order to get into these universities. And then I ended up picking Duke because I ended up getting a full ride scholarship there.
That's great. You all are just so impressive and inspiring to so many. As a first generation American myself, my parents immigrated to this country to pursue a better way of life, and always impressed upon me that education was most important and was the gateway to greater opportunities. Yet at the same time, they really couldn't always help me with navigating the college process, from writing essays to getting recommendations to applying for scholarships and financial aid, or even now, what is now completing the free application for federal student aid, which is the FAFSA. You guys touched on this a little bit earlier in responses, but can you talk about how you went about navigating this? If you can name who or what specific organizations and websites you look to for support. Caitlin, let's start with you.
Okay. So I am definitely big on scholarships. The scholarships are out there, and if you really reveal who you are as a person, which is kind of what I was mentioning earlier, just find your why and the purpose of like, why do you want that education? Why do you want that degree? What do you plan to do that? What do you plan to do with that degree? You really just make yourself applicable to scholarships. And so I devoted time in high school to local scholarships. Every community has scholarships, whether it be through maybe some churches or local businesses and organizations. Those are out there, and a lot of your high school counselors will have that information available for you. So that was a big help. Even the small scholarships that are like $500, $300, $200 here and there definitely add up and help a lot once you get to college. And so that was a part before college. And then once I was in college, I started applying to scholarships every single year. So for ECU, there's a big general scholarship pool. So you fill out the general application and then you're put into a pool of money for a lot of different scholarships. And then you can go in and apply to different ones. Each university is kind of different with that process. And then the biggest emphasis I can put on you right now is FAFSA. You have to get that FAFSA in. Literally, the day it opens, start it. Like, get it in, get it done, get that money. It's kind of like a first come, first serve. So you want to fill it out as fast as you can. And I know that it can be confusing and overwhelming at first. It still is challenging for me, but definitely fill it out. Devote time to actually sit down and do it and get it done. Don't procrastinate. Don't procrastinate on that. That's definitely a big help. And if it wasn't for the mix of FAFSA and scholarships for myself, I would be in debt right now. But because I devoted the time to apply myself to scholarships and for financial aid, I was able to, I will graduate in the spring completely college debt free. So that's kind of how I did it. Definitely reach out to all your college advisors, your high school counselors, teachers, and staff at your high school. A lot of them are very knowledgeable about what scholarships exist around the area. And then once you're in college, there's plenty of resources for you to find those scholarships and to get help with financial aid if you need it.
So the way that I went about choosing my university was I was a part of this program called Upward Bound in high school. And pretty much their main job was to show us universities and colleges to try to get us motivated to go to universities and stuff. And they were really helpful with paying for the SAT and ACT because my parents couldn't really help me with paying for those tests. They didn't really understand why I had to pay for a test. So yeah, they really helped with paying for those. They also helped us during the free application week and let us know when it was and which colleges were a part of it. They always took us on tours like every other weekend or a couple times a month to a lot of different universities. And that really helps you get exposed to like what the campus life is like and try to see if you blend into that campus or not. And another way that I found universities, I use like niche.com, and like sometimes the reviews are outdated. So it'll really help to like try to go on Google and do a Google search. But yeah, that's how they helped me, how I found North Carolina Central University as my school. Also, my brother goes there. And if he was fine, I just thought I would be cool too.
Well, for me, I had a different path. I knew going out of high school that I wouldn't be able to afford like a regular 4-year university. And so my counselors really pushed for community college. And I know there's like a negative stigma around community college. Like everyone wants to go to a 4-year university straight out of high school. But if you can't afford it, I think it's the best option available. And it's really cheap and you're doing basically the same classes as everyone else is doing for a more affordable price. While I was at community college, they have like scholarships like on their website, and they have like a financial aid office where you can apply to these scholarships to receive money as well. And for me, I think college also helps you decide on what you wanted to study if you're unsure of that. I took a CNA course, which allowed me to get clinical experience, and that kind of helped me like assure me that I wanted to go into nursing. And not long after that, I just decided to transfer. And I recommend that if you are going to go to community college, that you get your associates, because there are a lot of benefits with that. You go in with junior status at some North Carolina schools. So I recommend getting your associates before transferring to a 4-year if you decide to do that.
Thank you. These are such helpful tips. And I know that the number one question on students and families' minds, and then Caitlin, you mentioned this quite a bit in your response, is really trying to figure out how they'll afford it. Who can share in your experience? Did you complete the FAFSA? What types of options did you get for your financial aid package? How are you making it all work?
Hey, so I did complete my FAFSA. My mom helped me complete it. My mom helped my brother complete his when he went to North Carolina Central, and she helped me complete mine. And also, I have a couple student loans, but it's not like a hefty amount that isn't payable. Sorry, that's my parents. But yeah, and I have a couple student loans, but it's not like unpayable, I would say. I have grants from North Carolina Central that they give everyone who goes there. Um, Grants from the government, of course, for going to a UNC school. And I have a couple scholarships I have a Last Dollar scholarship that Upward Bound helped me find through, they're through NC State, but I don't know if it came from NC State. And I also have another scholarship that my mentor helped me find that's specifically for Wake County students that went to Wake County high schools, called the Atlantic League of the Triangle, I believe. And they usually give students a good amount to help them pay for certain finances if you explain what you're using money for.
And I can go in a little bit more depth. I know I talked a lot about this earlier, but whenever I was doing my financial aid, my packages are offered. I get federal grants, and then I get state grants, and grants are money that you don't have to pay back. And then I always get offered like loans, and I never have to take those. I'm very thankful and blessed for that. But for my scholarships, I do have a 4-year scholarship through ECU. So that's each semester. And then, like I mentioned earlier, for ECU, and I'm sure a lot of universities are like this, you can apply to different scholarships each year. So I have the one that renews each year, and then I have one, like several different ones that I've gotten each semester that I can continue to apply to. And like I said, every little bit helps. Like, don't think that, oh no, I'm good this semester. I don't need to worry about filling out my FAFSA for next year, or I don't need to worry about filling out more scholarships. I'm telling you, like, apply yourself, because some people have that mindset and then they're like, oh no, like now I have to go get a loan, and I wish I would have given that time earlier. So definitely always take advantage of the opportunities that you can.
So for me, I would probably say that it's definitely one of those like once in a lifetime like chances, moments that like occur. It is statistically rare in this type of situation, but for me, so the way Duke does it is they have their merit scholarship programs, and basically they always have optional essays, especially in the Common App, the way that it's formatted. They had this optional diversity essay, and one thing that my college advisor emphasized was if it's optional, that basically means you should do it, because it adds more depth to your application when they're considering merit scholarship individuals that they want to select. And because I did the diversity statement, essentially I was screened, and then in this like applicant pool, they like, without even letting me know, because I didn't know about this, I was eventually selected as David M. Rubenstein Scholar at Duke, which is a merit scholarship specifically for first generation low income students coming to Duke. And it was like me and like 40 something other students across the US. And we got to come to Duke early, and it was just, I mean, so far it's been an amazing program that has really shaped my entire experience in college. But even aside from that, I guess something that I can add to this conversation is if you're in that bracket that is like closer to the top, and I know for me, like I was also applying to NC State, and I was recommended for the Goodnight Scholarship because of my class rank, my GPA, and just in that level that I was doing. And my college advisor was like, you have to apply, and you have to do everything. You have to fill out those essays. You have to do all the interviews that come associated with it if you move on to the finalist round. And the Goodnight Scholarship is a scholarship program at NC State for first generation, not necessarily first generation. I think it's just low income students. You have to make less than $100,000. That's my understanding when I applied. And if you move on after you submit your application and they review it, you go on to finalist weekend, and then you have to do interviews, and just some of those things were things that I had to prepare for in advance and like learn how to do all at the same time. So definitely, I think it's much later now than when those things were due. But for me, it was definitely something that was always emphasized, that you always have to do the additional essays. You always have to seek out scholarships that are appropriate for you or might fit just being like for me, there was this one scholarship, I just had to be Latino and I had to have a certain GPA. So I was like, okay, I'm going to apply to that. And just stay always on the look for what's available because you never know what situation you'll find yourself in. Fortunately for me, because I did literally just because I did that one extra essay, I got a full ride at Duke worth approximately like over, I don't even know how much money. It's over $250,000 and fully funded, 2 summers funded. And it just felt like I hit the jackpot when that worked out for me. But definitely when you apply for these, if you're applying for top schools like Duke and others around that area, definitely just do whatever you can to market yourself the best way possible. Because I know for me, one thing that I really wanted to highlight was that I was from rural North Carolina. I was an immigrant. I had a particular interest in environmental science and statistics, which is very important because, when you're in like rural North Carolina, there's a lot of woods and forests, and a lot of conversation about the environment is like really important here as well, especially being like this, I think it was ranked second out of all the states for having the best solar energy. So just things like that, you can really market yourself, especially if you're applying to schools that have more international student populations. It really did help in my applications, just highlight those, and especially in my scholarship essays, like why it was important for me to be more of an advocate for the environment. But then obviously once you're in college, you have different interests and you start to learn more things that are more relevant to what you want to study. And that's kind of how I transitioned more into statistics and more of the theory behind like numbers and things like that. But for the most part, during the application season, out of everything that I just said, you should definitely like fill out those essays.
So filling out those essays, making sure that you are searching all different places to uncover different scholarships. I want to make sure that I'm drawing people's attention to the chat. Melissa Caperton, our Director of Regional Impact, has been posting great resources and links. Getting Help Paying for College, there is an entire section on the College Foundation of North Carolina, CFNC. If you haven't already visited cfnc.org, they are a great wealth of resources and tools and videos for both you as students as well as for your family members, and they also have some translated resources in Spanish. But they've got a great section on grants and scholarships that include hundreds of different scholarship opportunities, from the Golden Leaf one to state employee credit unions to teach grants, to very specific areas of interest, including defense or cybersecurity. So just make sure that your interests, make sure you go out and search those, look for those early deadlines, and make sure you're completing the FAFSA, because oftentimes there are some other kinds of scholarship opportunities that they do look to that FAFSA completion in order to award some of those grants and scholarships. So before we get into our next section, I want to make sure that if you are having any questions pop into your mind, make sure that you go ahead and put it in the Q&A. We'll be spending some time towards the end of our session really going through some of those questions, and we'll also go through some of the questions that we received on the survey that many of our students completed ahead of time. So in this next section, we're going to talk about the social side. Especially for first generation, college can be, well, it can be kind of lonely at times. Having a mentor or other support network is really important for all students. We had a lot of questions that came in about students that are maybe kind of looking at, well, what's the differences in community colleges? What's the difference in a traditional four-year college? What kinds of supports should I be looking for? Or what's the environment, and just particularly during COVID, where sometimes people may not feel as comfortable traveling. Can you help to kind of point to what are the kinds of things that they should really have on their radar screen, and describe what was really most helpful in your decision and your successful transition? Stephen, let's go ahead and start with you.
Yeah, so for me, when I came to Duke, fortunately, my scholarship program funded this summer transition program where I got to take a course and I got to learn more about the facilities like the Academic Resource Center, CAPS, which might be different at other universities, but it's essentially for like psychological services, if you need the additional like mental health resources. And it was very, very helpful in knowing where these buildings were, exactly like individuals that I could reach out to by email. Because once you go to college, it's completely different from high school. Like you will be using your email a lot, almost every single day. You'll be checking it, and it's just one thing that you should always keep on your mind. I think I always forget that like when I was in high school, that was like the biggest shock to me, that everyone uses email to communicate, and it's almost like everyone's checking it all the time. You shouldn't do that, but that's just one thing that was really important for me, was to not feel afraid to email people if I had a particular question or was confused about something that I read on the website, because I feel like maybe in high school it might have been looked down upon by other peers that like if you didn't know anything, like okay, just you'll figure it out later. But definitely college is a whole different game. You have to do whatever it takes to make sure that you're prepared, especially as a first generation low income student, because you know you don't have parents that are telling you you need to do this or you need to go do that. It's it's a whole new experience that you're trying to figure out on your own sometimes. But for me, fortunately, it just almost happened naturally as well. I also sought out other first generation low income students on campus. Duke's low income population, first gen low income population is like less than 20%, I think, which is kind of overwhelming, because the majority of the students are international or they come from very, very wealthy families, which might not be the situation at every university where the percentage is like large, but they definitely do exist. And it's kind of almost shocking for some people to realize that, you're in class with some of these students that are far different in the demographic from where you're from. I was from a split, Stanford, which I've mentioned before, is a very rural area. So to meet kids from like New York or Los Angeles was just like overwhelming. They have completely different lives than what I live. And I just did not know how to kind of like communicate or talk with them, or to even kind of like share information about my background. Because, I think you definitely want to come off as someone that's like very confident, or someone that is like very easygoing, because you just want to make friends with people once you're in college as a first year, and you definitely want to give a good impression on others. But as time goes on, I think something that I wish I could have even changed a little bit when I first transitioned to Duke was to maintain like this authentic persona about myself, because I felt like I almost wanted to hide this fact that I was first gen or low income, just so I could fit in with other students, which might just naturally happen because that's just how it is. I think everyone, regardless of like the kind of background that you come from, just wants to fit in for the most part. But you should always try to maintain some type of level of like authenticity when you're trying to speak with people, and that you're proud of where you come from, and that you're willing to share and learn from each other, even if you might come from two different pathways. But definitely, in addition to that, like if you don't have some type of program that helps you transition well, whether it be like through a scholarship program or some type of like pre-boarding, I would say like program established. I know at schools at NC State and UNC, they do that for like a couple of days, so you can get familiar with the campus. But definitely try to take those first couple of days during your orientation week to kind of know the facilities, where all your classes are, meet other students. You definitely don't want to come off as inauthentic, as I've mentioned earlier, and try to just be prepared as possible, because again, like I mentioned before, you're not going to have your parents there with you. It's definitely going to be a new experience that you're going to have to figure out on your own, but it shouldn't mean that you should do it alone. You should definitely seek out other individuals that are also going through this, and just try to work through it together for those first couple of weeks.
Well, for myself, in community college, it was kind of hard to make friends because everyone's just kind of there like for class and they just leave. So there's not really any like recreational or like clubs. There's like not that much to do. So making friends in community college is a little hard. I made a couple friends. It's in classes where we're like studying the same thing, like my anatomy classes. I've made friends with the other nursing students. But I just transferred to my university this semester during the pandemic, so it's been kind of hard to get to know people. that's kind of the bad thing about being a transfer student is you're new and everyone there, like that's a sophomore, already knows people from like the years before. So they've been there a while, they're more established than I am. So I've just been meeting people like online. I joined clubs and stuff that I'm interested in. That's what I recommend doing. Like I joined the Latino Association, there's like Asian associations, Muslim associations. So just join clubs with people that have similar interests and you'll meet a lot of people that way. And another way that I've been meeting people is I just go online and I go onto Instagram, and if I see Wingate in their bio, I just follow them and DM them. And I've made a lot of friends that way because a lot of people are lonely during the pandemic too. So they want people to talk to. So it's really easy to meet people that way. So that's what I recommend to get to know people during the pandemic where you can't really meet people in person.
So the way that I was social, well, my freshman year, I didn't live on campus. My parents didn't necessarily want me to live on campus. So I missed out on a lot. But like I knew people kind of through classes a little bit, but not really. And then sophomore year, when I moved on campus, you meet people like in your dorms, on your way to class, in the caf. I also joined different organizations, National Association of Black Journalists, nothing about the arts. I was the miss this last fall. But what else? I also joined a sorority this past spring, Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. And there are just a lot of people on campus. You just meet them in random places, especially if you're just like walking around. I didn't meet a lot of people when I would sit in the library my freshman year. So like sometimes you just have to go out there and go to the events and try to be social because I'm definitely an introvert. But yeah, people are really friendly and there's so many different clubs to join and stuff. And like how Melanie was talking about how it's hard to make friends when you're a transfer student. They have transfer student associations for students who transfer from other colleges. And yeah.
Thank you. You know, it sounds like you guys were able to find your way because you really look towards your own passions. And, you know, trying to find your group, right, is something that takes some doing, but we know that many of our college campuses and community colleges, they have these kind of summer bridge programs, different associations to get started with. Oftentimes, they'll, even in this virtual environment, they do those kinds of information sessions. So those are available out there. And before we transition into the next set of questions, I know that we have a lot of different resources that are located on the chat line. If you're not quite sure about what you want to do or the different pathways there might be, definitely check out a great new resource. It is nccareers.org, where you can really explore your interests and your different careers, different occupations, plan what that might look like in terms of additional education and training. And there's everything that's possible out there from, you know, for education after high school. It doesn't always mean an immediate 4-year journey. We know that particularly in this pandemic, it is really challenging for many families if you are also helping to contribute to your family income to support your siblings. We know that there are great opportunities with our community colleges, particularly in getting that additional credential, or even Melanie talking about, hey, I had some additional interest, and then it was through that experience at my community college that I really felt like I could use my associates and go further. So there's lots of different pathways. I know sometimes people have this notion that it must be 4 years. There are different ways to get there as long as you continue to know and understand that education after high school is the most important thing. One of the questions that came on the line was really just asking of you all, what ideas do you have that will help to get the hearts and heads of graduating seniors so they choose this path instead of maybe going on and continuing and just you know, the first job that they might have outside of high school. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I can talk a little bit about that. I think one thing that has really prepared me well, or kind of the understanding that I'm glad that I ended up attending college rather than just sidestepping it, were definitely the internship opportunities that I got in between my semesters. So during the summer, fortunately for me, I landed an internship at Twitter as a software engineer. And that was definitely probably a life-changing event. Going to San Francisco, getting to learn, getting to travel across the US, and just getting to learn about these really different job opportunities that I would never imagine. I still sit and think like, oh my God, I'm from Sanford, North Carolina, and I'm out here in San Francisco, like coding and doing this type of weird stuff, getting to meet Jack Dorsey or just talking. And I don't know, it's just definitely been almost surreal and unimaginable. And I think those are just kind of the things that you really don't know unless you find out, and just try and do whatever you can to get these opportunities. And it is definitely overwhelming to think, okay, I'm going to apply for college and I'm going to do everything that I can, and I have no idea what the outcome is going to look like. That is normal. And that is an experience that, especially if you're first gen low income, you know, you don't have parents telling you that like, this is what it's going to look like when you do this and that step. It's definitely just doing whatever you can to, you know, launch your future, try to figure out things that you're interested or not interested in. And it's definitely like really good if you're able to manage to find those scholarships and opportunities to fund your colleges at the same time while you're learning and finding these new opportunities. You also want to make sure that you can afford to do it as well.
Another question that came in is, do you have any fears, or did you have any fears or concerns about college before coming to college? If so, can you describe them? And then the second part of that question was, you know, we know that many students and families might be viewing this in the future as well. Did your parents have any fears or concerns? And how did you talk through that?
I've always been super close to my family, and I've always been like a homebody. So I was really scared about moving out and like living on my own, like in a dorm. So that was my biggest fear. But just like getting used to it. I still went home pretty often because I wasn't that far from home anyways. So just learning to like live on your own, and like there's no one home to like tell you what to do. You're completely alone. You can do whatever you want. No one tells you to study. No one tells you like what you have to do, what time. It's your time to decide what you want to do. So just managing your time is something that's really valuable that I've learned. And I think my relationship with my parents have improved. I feel like we miss each other more. And so when we do get to spend time together, it's like so much more valuable. And yeah, getting some free time really helps.
And I could kind of oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I can kind of add on to that. I, especially being like a low income household, I help support my family a lot. And so the transition for me was really scary. Just thinking, oh my gosh, like if I leave, like, how is that going to leave my family? Like, are they going to be okay? I can't really take care of them when I'm 2 hours away to, you know, chasing after my own dreams, building my own future. So that was really scary and worried, but I kind of just took that leap of faith, and I look back on it, and it was really like it helped all of us. I think it strengthened our relationship a lot, and my parents are so proud of me and so grateful that I am creating the life that I want to live instead of worrying about like what they're going to do, because at the end of the day, like they're going to be okay and they're going to take care of themselves. Like they got to where they are now, just like how we are on our own path to get to where we are. And I totally agree. I think being away from home, our relationship has strengthened a lot. There's not so much like tension going on with over little things. And just having that space makes you so grateful for the times that you are home.
I was gonna say pretty much the same stuff about how I was gonna miss my parents, and I didn't know how life was gonna be, being away from home. Like, how am I gonna do all this stuff? But you're an adult now. Once you leave the house, and you have to learn how to take care of yourself and do your own things, it's actually a lot more fun than people try to make it seem like. When you're just doing your own thing, and you don't have to worry about your parents telling you how to do things and what to do. And I think our relationship strengthened a little bit. I'm still not that far from like my universe, from like school and home. It's like 45 minutes. But now it's like, okay, I'm an adult now. You don't have to do all this extra stuff. Like, I'm good, you're good, and I'm good.
So, great question and follow up to many of what you were saying. And I think that to many of our families and our students that we've heard from that have gone on, very similar sentiments was just that belief in yourself and knowing that your family supports you and they're proud of you. But oftentimes, people are also afraid if you go away and get a degree that you won't return home. Do you plan to return to your hometown to work after graduation? Why or why not?
Well,
Oh, go, sorry.
I plan on going more into the news industry. And I mean, there's just not that in Wendell. I mean, there's some in Raleigh, but not fully what I look forward to. So I don't necessarily plan on returning to my hometown, but my parents live here, so I got to come back. So
Fortunately for me, I live in Raleigh, and Raleigh's like a big city, and nursing is kind of an occupation where like you can really get a job anywhere because it's so needed. So I do plan on living here and staying here in Raleigh.
I can talk a little bit to that too. I think one thing, it was definitely, it's always a conversation that I've had coming back home for the holidays. So what are you going to do next summer? Or do you have any ideas like what job you want to do after you're done graduating? It's definitely something that is worrisome, for my parents at least. The, especially, and I don't know, it might be different in different ethnic communities, but like for the most part, it's generally shared. I feel like with me and my cousins or like this Latino like household that you need to be close to your family, you need to support them, and you know your parents are going to grow old, they're going to come and live with you, and just kind of all these notions that have kind of been instilled in me that like you have to take care of your elders. It was definitely scary, even trying to present to them that maybe I don't want to come back home, or maybe I want to do something different for my life. But it's going to be completely different. And whether you have that conversation with them or not, if you don't want to have it, I think it's just important to always be critical of, you know, they're also like almost dependent on what you want to do, whether they want to admit it or not. And it's emotional too sometimes, because you know they they probably were never expecting it at the point in which I am now. My parents were probably not expecting me to be in this position where you know I'm even thinking about like moving far away, or that I'll have a financially secure job and of these matters. And so you definitely want to keep it on the back of your mind, even if you end up not having a conversation, because it is very important. And that is kind of that transition from being a child to being an adult, where you want to let them know, this is how I'm going to move on with my life, but I'm going to try to do everything I can to still support you, even if I'm far away.
Anyone else? So the next question that we have, you all kind of talked a little bit about different kind of skills or experiences or just knowledge that you've kind of been equipped with or had to experience in your first year or even second year of your college going experience. I heard things like you had to learn how to manage your time, learn organization, taking care of yourself. What are some additional things that students, as they're kind of mentally preparing for that next step, and what kinds of advice would you give them on things that you just had no idea that was going to be something that you would have to deal with once you were on at your, next step?
I think for me, in high school, I didn't really have to like study. I mean, I've always been organized and like on top of things. That's just kind of how I am. But for college, I didn't realize that it was going to be as challenging, I guess, if that makes sense. I don't know. I just felt like in high school, I could just study like 5 minutes before a test and I'd be okay, or just like assignments, I could be okay in class. And then in college, I can feel so prepared. And then I sit down and take my test and I'm like, I know nothing on this. Like, it's okay to feel unprepared sometimes, but you still need to do your best to be prepared. So don't take it lightly, especially I look back now, and now that I'm situated in college and I'm settling and I'm almost done, I look back to my freshman year and I really wish I would have taken it more seriously, just like pushed myself to do even better than I did. But that all was with the transition. So definitely take it seriously and remember that you are who you surround yourself with. So the type of people that you're around is going to be, even if you don't think it's going to play a big role in your education, it is. So definitely find people who have similar work ethics than you and similar passions and interests as you. And that's going to really help you and push you like academically to do the best you can. And the more, I guess the more like motivated you are to do well in college, the more opportunities you're going to find yourself in, whether that be scholarships, internships, and then future careers as well. So keep that in mind, even as you start college. Don't wait till senior year to get it together. Start freshman year and give it literally 110% the whole time, but also enjoy it too. Like find those interests and passions in clubs, organizations, and things like that.
I was just going to add that adjusting to like online classes during COVID is a little hard for some people, especially people who have never had online classes before. My last semester at my community college, like in March when COVID hit, I was taking online classes. So right now it hasn't been that big of an adjustment, but I recommend a planner like because you're not going to classes, like you can't really remember when Zoom classes are or when stuff's due. So just writing everything out and like having scheduled times to like study for certain classes has been really helpful for me with online classes, but also not overworking yourself, because I know it can be hard. You're on the screen all day and you kind of like time just goes by and you don't even realize it's like 10 p.m. and you've been studying all day. So just try to work in some like fun activities so that you don't get burnt out really quickly.
I was just gonna add one more thing. Something that I really used in college that I didn't use at all in high school is like my calendar on my phone and my reminders. Cause like sometimes I'll really forget that, oh my God, I have this project that's due in like 3 weeks and it's a major project, or oh, I forgot that this assignment is due such and so time. So I'll have to remind myself like and put it in like a priorities to figure out which one will take me longer and not as long to do. And yeah, that'll really help you with trying to get your assignments done in time to do something else.
All right, so another question that came in on the flip side of this, like you learned something about yourself, but were there any assumptions that you might have had about college that just really turned out to be myths or uncovered that as you were going through the process of applying? What are some of those things that had come out for you?
A big one for me is like high school teachers would be like, college professors are so strict, like they do not, they're like they won't give extra credit, they don't give extra extended due dates, but they actually do. You just have to like build a like relationship with them and just communicate with them like what's going on, and they might extend the like the due date for you, or they most professors offer, well for me at least, they've offered extra credit. So you just have to communicate with them and let them know like what's been happening, and they're more than willing to work with you.
I guess, and I mean, I want to be more real here. Like, once you go to college, there are going to be first-time experiences, just in terms of with alcohol consumption that you probably, I don't know, for me at least, like my family was like very strict on that, like growing up in high school, and it was just overwhelming seeing like an abundance of students, like going and doing this and how it was so casual. But at the same time, like, well, I guess that's not necessarily like a myth per se, but maybe this idea that like you can, it will have an impact in your first year if you do not like start focusing on like what you want to get out of your college experience. I think like, and it's already been mentioned before that like nobody's going to tell you what you should or shouldn't do. And I know Caitlin mentioned, Caitlin mentioned this, like, and I want to emphasize it a lot. Like, definitely find the right group of friends that you want to hang out with, because I feel like there have been many instances in college where like my pathway could have gone completely different just solely based on who I was hanging out with and kind of the influences and conversations that we'd have would have kind of shaped my life differently. But for me, like, so I'm majoring in statistics, and it was definitely overwhelming, even considering a STEM major, especially at a school like Duke. It was just like, there's not a lot of people that look like me. I feel overwhelmed. I feel like it almost feels impossible. But I ultimately ended up, and I'm so glad I had 3 friends who, since like the first year, we've formed study groups all the way up until senior year. We're all going to get our stats degree together. And that was just kind of really important for me. And I would just like to make sure that other students know that you can definitely form like study groups from the very beginning. But also at the same time, like Caitlin mentioned, you should have fun and you should try to seek out opportunities that aren't just solely academic, so that you can, have a break from like all the stress of school and those things, because burnout does happen. You don't want to let that completely affect your time at college and have a negative outlook on kind of the opportunities that you can get if you were able to balance your time better.
Just to add on to that, like what Stephen was saying about the group of friends, if you feel like your group of friends aren't like helpful or productive as much as you want to be, you can find another one. There's so many groups of people on campus, and if they feel some type of way about it, it's not like you're really going to see them that much anyway. So like you can find new friends and new people. There's so many people around you. It's not going to be so hard and that bad.
All right, quick lightning round. How did you decide on your college?
For me, my top 3 were UNC, Chapel Hill, Appalachian, and ECU. They all offered my program, and they were just the bigger schools that I was very interested in. And I literally, once I got all my acceptances, I literally sat down and I was like, I don't really like cold weather. So Appalachian was out. And I know that may sound silly, but the type of environment that the school is in is really going to matter. Like, I was picturing myself trying to walk to class in snow, and I was like, there's no way I could do that. Some people love that. It's all about the right fit. And then when I debated UNC Chapel Hill, and Stephen can tell you, we went to high school together. UNC Chapel Hill and ECU so much. Like, I literally was so stressed and worried and anxious about it. And before I ever found out about my scholarship from ECU, once I toured it, I knew that's where my heart wanted. I was like, this just feels like home. Like, this is the great match for me that has so many opportunities. They're known for a teaching school, which is what I'm interested in. So that was a big factor. And for UNC Chapel Hill, very prestigious school, amazing school, but for what I wanted to do, it just wasn't a good fit. And I really thought about it, and I was like, do I want to spend my 4 years chasing after the school or chasing after what I really want to do? And whenever I put that in perspective, it was an easy choice, and it is the best choice of my life. I've literally loved every second of ECU. Let me not say every second. Some nights are stressful, but for the most part, I've really, really enjoyed it. And these years have gone by so fast. So I definitely recommend going with your gut and just weighing your perspectives for each choice.
So I applied to 10 colleges and I got into 8. And I didn't really want to go to North Carolina Central. It was like towards the bottom, but like we went on tours and my brother goes there. And after spending a few moments there, I was like, okay, I guess I can do this. And it's been the greatest decision that I've made because they're just so helpful. There's so many different people and they're just so accepting. And I don't think I would have found this type of family at any other university.
I think for me, it came down to NC State and Duke, but actually different programs. I applied to NC State Environmental Engineering and I applied to Duke Environmental Science because they didn't have an environmental engineering program. And it was surprisingly difficult. I feel like some people have been like Duke, obviously, but for me, like, it did matter a lot, the program and the professors that were going to shape my entire experience. But then at the end of the day, because I was undecided, which is totally fine, I feel like that's another like thing, almost a myth that like you have to know exactly what you want to do once you start into college. I guess not really myth. I guess some people know that you'll change your major a lot of times. But for me, it came down to, if I ended up not liking what I was going to do, could I find another degree program and would I be happy at that school? And fortunately, because like both schools, I mean, I ended up getting full rides to both schools. It came down to Duke had professors that had more similar kind of research interests that would be helpful in my decision in case I did not want to major fully in environmental science or environmental engineering at other schools. So that's why I ended up going to Duke.
For me, I didn't really have that many options because the scholarship that I'm under, they have like partner schools, which are mostly private universities that they kind of work with. And so they didn't have really that many schools with nursing. And I was between Queen's University in Charlotte and Wingate. But I loved how Wingate was such a small school. Like my classes are like 20 students, which was kind of similar to like my community college experience. And I just feel like I can like build a better relationship with my professors, and they really know me like on a personal level. So that was a big like important point for me.
Oh, that's great. So everything from looking at the environment, the culture of schools, like, do you even like the weather and the geographical area? Those are really great nuggets that I think oftentimes we kind of overstep and we kind of look at the, the name of the school, but really getting down to understanding the program and what that fit's going to be is all great advice. The last question that we'll talk about, and you know that myFutureNC is really helping to lift up overall at greater educational attainment, and we're working with state agencies and organizations in business, education, government, our civic and our community leaders to really improve access and to expand those educational opportunities. What advice do you give to us in how we can better support our first generation students in thinking about college and going on to college?
I think the first word that just came to my mind was just like authenticity. I'm not even sure if I said that right, but just being real and authentic. Um, because I know for me through high school, if I wouldn't have had the support system with my friends and like teachers and the college advisor, I don't think that I would have pushed myself to get here just because I didn't have that support from home. And it wasn't that they didn't want me to go after my dreams or anything like that, but it was just the whole college application in itself. They couldn't help me. They couldn't give me their support there because they weren't sure either. And so just having that, the resources are out there, but just having someone in your corner say, you can do this. Like people have been where you are before. Like you can do this. Here are the resources for you, and you got this. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be challenging, but like you still got it. And I know that might sound like silly and just kind of superficial, but it's seriously like just not having that mindset and that perspective and just feeling like you're supported literally makes all the world of difference.
Anyone else? Okay, so we are going to wrap up. Our time came super quickly. Final thoughts on your experience or words of inspiration that you'd like to share. 30 seconds each, and then we'll wrap up this event.
I just wanted to say that everyone's path is different. So you might not go to college for 4 years. You might go for 6, or you might go for 8. So just working at your own pace is fine because you will get there eventually, and it doesn't matter how long you take.
I was gonna say that I know it might be scary or like discouraging to go to college and be the only one in your family that like kind of leaves and tries to find themselves and do their own thing. But sometimes you have to take that risk and go look at the world for how you see it and see things and experience life for yourself.
I think as a first generation low income student, you will definitely come across challenges that not even maybe your friends can help you in deciding that for you. Especially, I would even say in deciding like your major or things like that. For some people, they're more passionate, and it doesn't necessarily mean you have to do a STEM major or something that will make a lot of money, but you always want to be prepared for whatever comes your way and think about all the multiple different options you might have to take in case you want to take a route with less money.
Yeah, definitely adding on to Stephen, just accept that the path is not going to be easy. You're going to have challenges, especially being first gen and low income, but just accept that and then keep pushing forward. And it's never a bad time to chase after your dreams and to just try and build a better future for yourself.
Thank you so much. You guys are so incredibly inspiring, and I just want to thank you, all of our panelists, for your time and your inspiring words and sharing in your experiences. Again, you are all just truly inspiring. I also want to thank our College Advising Corps for co-hosting tonight's event. This will not be our last. We have recorded this event and we'll share this out over social media and with your schools and community to share with other students. We encourage you to DM your friends about this event, share in the important information, resources, and experiences of these inspiring students, and make sure to visit the College Foundation of North Carolina at cfnc.org for resources and tools to help you plan, apply, and pay for college. From all of us at myFutureNC and our partners around the state committed to increasing educational opportunities, your future is bright and we're here to help. Thank you so much and have a great night.